artist and you work for Universal Studios. That is all true. So if somebody knows some producer or director is looking at your resume, it'd be like, well, this is a movie person, right? That's what
Yeah.
I would think. Yeah. So you come up with concepts for like theme parks and rides and lands.
Actually, I am not the one who comes up with concepts. I don't know. Usually it's the creative executive or the production designer. The role of production designer takes upon a different role in theme parks, but
What is that role in theme parks?
well, it's actually very similar, I guess. They supervise fabrication, they supervise I think they also do pitch ideas though to the executives and see what's going on. And when they refine their ideas, they gather a bunch of references and send them to me.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
With like the limitations of yeah, it has to fit in this physical space and it has to fit, humans of a certain size. Are you given all that?
Um, I think in all concept art pieces, it's really important to understand scale because you just genuinely have no idea how big something is going to be or small something is going to be. Like you can't do drafting or construction drawings without knowing how big it is relevant relative to a 6 foot person.
Right.
So yeah.
That makes sense. All right. So you can't say what you're working on, NDAs. I get it.
No.
Get it. But can you say some things that you've worked on at the park
Um,
in the past that we already exist,
yeah.
like Harry Potter
It,
land?
no, I wish I was. I haven't been around for that long. But in I think this is the only project that I can talk about because it has been released and they broke ground. But at Disneyland, they have this ride called the Haunted Mansion. And
Yes.
they're
Very famous.
expanding, yeah. They're expanding the queue for it. And they're basically building a whole retail space because it's such a popular ride.
Yeah.
And the creative executive was like, hello, out of nowhere. It was really random. Like one day I just got an email and asked me to jump onto a specific illustration project that was drawing up what the cube or the haunted mansion looks like. So that's being built right now. I don't know what it looks like. Um, well, I
Well,
will
you
know.
drew it. You know what it looks like.
No, I do, yeah. So I think I obviously do have an idea because I visited the park during not park hours, like right before the park opened. And like I had to see how big the space was to figure out like, oh, okay, this is gonna be this big, this is gonna be that big, this statue is this tall, that sort of thing. So I think I generally know how what it looks like, but nobody has seen it yet. I hope somebody lets me in to see it when it's done.
Yeah. How does that work? Like you have obviously no ownership over it, but do
No,
they
that's
keep you
it.
connected? Is there like a quote, like, yeah, movie premieres? Is there like a premiere of the new space where the designers get to go see it?
That's a really good question. And since I have never really been an official employee of Disney or Universal because I'm just contracted,
Right.
right? And I'm
Right.
freelancing. It's an ongoing basis for Universal, but for Disney, it was just a one-time thing. I am aware that they usually have like soft openings for friends and families for Imagineers. I knew that happened for the Avengers campus and the Star Wars land like years and years ago, but I think they do it. And I hope they let me in. I do have friends there. I hope they let me in. We'll see.
We'll
Because I
see.
don't want
Well,
to go
we're
in.
putting it out here on this podcast. So, hey, Disney, let her in. Come on.
Yeah.
So it's like you're waiting in line and you're exposed to all these things you can
Yeah,
spend money
basically.
on, like little shops. And
Yes, you
let me
do.
guess, is there a Starbucks?
I don't think so.
I mean, come on, that would have been perfect. Like, oh wait, no, I was doing Pirates of the Caribbean. You're talking about Haunted Mansion. That joke,
Oh yeah.
that joke does
No,
not
that
land.
did not land well. It's
I
okay.
was
I would love to work on
like you, I
something.
don't have a lot of sleep. Yes.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I would love to do something pirates though.
Yeah.
Irrelevant of how bad the movie is, I genuinely do want to work on films or sequels that are tied to like my favorite franchises.
Yes.
Like it was always my dream to work on a Beetlejuice sequel if there was one. And now they're making one.
Wait,
So
on a what sequel?
on a Beetlejuice sequel.
Beetlejuice. Yes.
And
Yeah. I mean, that's
great.
coming out. That's done. Yeah.
I know, my dream is gone. So I've been telling people these days that the later you're born, the more you're out of disadvantage because like everything's just
No, but you're living in the perfect time because everything that was cool,
hmm
that probably that you liked growing up is now being, brought back through nostalgia. And, the fact that there's a Beetlejuice 2, how many years later? 30 something late years later?
It was made in 1986, 9 or something like that. So
Yeah. So we're going on
40
almost
years.
40 years. Yeah. That's crazy.
I
And
know.
what I love about that, I was reading about it and it said that they used a lot of practical models and practical
That's why
effects.
I wanted to work on it. And
Yeah.
then it's never going to happen again. I doubt that the sequel is going to be good as the original. And I don't think, given how bad of a shape Tim Burton was in the recent years, I hate to say it.
Take
Um,
that back. I have a lot of faith in him because this is one of the movies that put him on the map. So I think everything that he has put out about this movie, it feels like he's really like trying, and he's
mhm.
like going back to basics in that he's not relying on visual effects. He even mixed up his team, a different cinematographer. Um, I don't know. I have high hopes for it, and I think that you're going to work on the third one
I hope so. I hope it's not a third one. I hope it's a prequel. We'll see.
or a prequel.
But
Okay,
yeah,
so you already have ideas for it. I got you. Well, wait, so let's talk about that because you originally wanted to be a screenwriter, right?
I did.
So obviously you're already thinking of the prequel to Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
You're writing it in your
I don't
head.
think I'll ever become a screenwriter, but yeah.
But that was the original, like,
That was the original idea. Like after watching this was like years and years ago. Now I don't now I'm like just neutral about it. But back then I thought like The Dark Knight was one of the best commercial films made ever. And I
yeah.
was like, okay, well, maybe I could do like something that weaves between philosophy and like something that's really famous. And then I realized I can't write dialogue.
Really? You're just
I
like,
think
I can't write dialogue and I'll never get better at this.
I don't know. I now that you speak it out loud, it's a really stupid mindset to think that, oh, I'll never get better at this. But because I feel like somebody has to start somewhere. But I at back then I knew what I think I knew like instinctively what people need to sound like, but I just didn't know how to execute it.
Right.
And I felt like that was a big handicap as a screenwriter because like it's ultimate I think it's screenwriting 101 that characters drive the story, not like everything else, right? I mean, there are like world building stuff, but not necessarily there are like world building stuff that drives the story, but then like they do that to mixed results. Like I've seen people who did not like Tolkien's books, so like I know what they mean. So coming back to the dialogue thing, I think it takes a special talent to write them. And even I think a lot of people are good at writing, but not a lot of people are good at writing what people should sound like. So
I think that's one of the big things that separates great screenwriters from average and good screenwriters is like you're reading something and you hear the different voices of the characters while you're reading it.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
There's even some really good writers where every character sounds the same. Aaron Sorkin is one of my favorite writers, and I think he suffers from every character sounds like a really smart, witty Aaron Sorkin character.
Yeah, that's actually true.
Yeah. So, okay, so take me back because I'm pretty good at this and I'm picking up on things and I hear a subtle accent in your
Oh,
voice.
yeah.
So
I'm
where are you
from
from?
I'm from Korea. I grew up in Korea my entire life. I just had friends from London and Oxford when I was younger. I was
Really?
like 8 or 9.
So this your family doesn't sound like this. Just this is from
Yeah, my
friends.
family doesn't speak English.
They don't speak
So,
English.
this is
So
just
you basically learned British English.
I think I started out in American English, but when I started speaking like consistently with people, they happened to be from the UK. So it just happened.
Yeah. Okay. That's unique. Okay, so
It
you grew
does
up
help
in
me put it does help people put me on the map. It definitely does because like at least in I do also think it's kind of racist to think about it that way, but I do know that at least in America, it is very uncommon to see an Asian girl talk with somewhat of a posh accent that's also like kind of Californian. So yeah.
it's a that's quite a mix. So you describe yourself as Californian with
I
a
don't think I'm Californian. I just don't think the way I speak now is entirely and authentically London.
it's the way you speak is absolutely not Californian. That's for sure. As a native Los Angeles, as an Angelino, you don't sound like, or like when people say, "What do LA people sound like?" It's not you, which is good. But like you said, you lean into the fact that you're memorable for that.
I don't lean into it. I just think it's like a plus. I'm never lo I haven't had a chance to lean into it yet. I hope it comes into handy one day.
Yeah.
I hope so.
I mean, here's the thing with Americans. I think whenever they hear the British accent, no matter what, we just add IQ points to the person and class points. You sound posh, like you said. But
Yeah.
we also, I think, subconsciously, we all go, "Oh, that person's smarter than us," you know. And it's, I know. So whether that's true or not, what you just know that most people you talk to, us dumb Americans, that's what we're putting on you. So you can manipulate us any way you want.
I don't think it's a bad thing. It is annoying when people like try to tell me that my accent is not from London, though. It's okay. There are people that are like, no, I'm pretty sure it's Australian. I'm like, I don't think you know that even within the UK, there are 100 dialects.
Right.
And if you go out like 5 kilometers or 5 miles outside of the center of London or like the south of London, like people literally sound different. But like that's like a different
Yeah.
story. So
Also,
yeah.
the Australian accent is derived from a British accent, right?
Yeah. I
Right.
sometimes lose the twang, so I think that's why.
Yeah. All right. So you grew up in South Korea.
Mm-hmm.
When do you come to the States
2014 for college.
for college?
Yes.
For film school?
Yes.
Where?
USC.
I've never heard of it. They have a film school? University of South Carolina?
No, it's University of Southern California School of Cinematic Arts. We call it SCA.
Right.
Um, I
I know.
sometimes call it SCA and realize the way people don't know what that is, but
So that was your undergrad? Or
that was
did
my undergrad.
okay, so you went straight to film school because you wanted to be a screenwriter?
No, actually, I gave up on the idea of screenwriting pretty quickly. As in, like, well, I did write a lot as a kid, but I gave up on it once I don't know when I realized that I could not write dialogue, but I could not write good dialogue, I
Right.
mean. Um, I just I don't know how I wish I had like a little bit more of a detailed origin story to tell you, but I thought that okay, if I can't do dialogue, what can I do? Then I just realized I liked staring at really pretty stuff.
Nice.
Really. And that's
Yeah.
why I liked Beetlejuice. I mean, it's also like a really like well-written campy film, but um
But it's beautiful.
it
Beautifully
is
designed. Yeah.
It is intricately designed. So I was like, okay, maybe I can do artsy stuff, visual stuff. And I don't know why my thought didn't land onto cinematography back then. I did a lot of photography back in the days. Like I did a lot of it, but somehow my mind didn't land on that. It landed on environments. So I came to USC, um, knowing that I wanted to do production design. Not knowing, nobody really knows. I honestly, like now I know that 10 years ago I did not know anything. But back then I wanted to do production design, and I realized that while I was researching, no undergrad, again, I this was a lack of information because I was from Korea. I didn't know how to research, and it's also very hard to research like film schools in general.
Right. Yeah.
I USC, the best film schools don't really have a production design program, at least in the on an undergrad level. We're
Right.
not talking about AFI or like anywhere else. And I think times have changed now, but back then it didn't really focus on production design. So I decided, okay, I don't want to spend my life I don't want to spend my life editing. I don't want to spend my life directing because that's not what I want to do. So I took upon critical studies, the film studies thing, but you still like shoot a lot of films like outside of school. So it's kind of like you get best of both worlds. You watch a lot of films for school and then you just shoot a lot of films outside. But yeah, where am I going with this?
Well, so
But
you picked up on production design. Was that like while you were at USC though? Because USC undergrad is you're kind of doing a little bit of everything, right?
yeah, you kind of do a little bit of everything, but I mainly did production design.
Oh, okay. So soon after you got in there, you were like, but
I
you were probably very valuable if, as a
I
like
probably was.
you probably you don't remember. Did everybody want you
I
to design their films?
um I I they did. Sometime after I discovered set decoration and set decoration, and back then I worked for USC Marshall, like the video editing like department. They do like e-learning stuff. And my supervisor was like, "Oh, I know a set decorator at Disneyland." Um, so I was like, "Great, they probably operate the same way. Can I meet him?" And he ended up becoming a manager in Imagineering by the time I met him. So that's how I got like into theme parks, but
Nice.
it's like a weird, like I went through a lot of curvy ways. I feel like I am doing something similar to what I originally intended on doing, but I did within that category, I just went everywhere.
Right.
So
Which is sometimes more satisfying when you get to just try all kinds of different things within that world that you love, which is,
yeah,
drawing and painting and art. When did you figure out that concept concept art was a thing, was a job?
I think I figured it out when I did this competition called Imaginations for Disney. It's no longer a thing anymore. I don't know why. It was such a good competition, but you have to like draw up concepts that you're pitching, essentially, without going too much detail into it. That's when I realized it was a thing, but I didn't know how to draw back then. So this was 2019. And when I came to grad school at UCLA's School of Theatre, Film, and Television, for production design, um, my professor was Andrew Leung. He worked on basically every big blockbuster that you can think of. He worked on Lion King, he worked on both Black Panther movies, he worked on one Spider-Man movie that I cannot remember. He worked on everything, basically. He's like
Mm.
the concept artist that everybody goes to now. But he taught us Photoshop, and then I was like, oh, I think I like this. because I think there was also a class called Process of Art Direction taught by the supervising art director of Doctor Strange, the second Doctor Strange film, Rachel Condras. And she basically taught us everything that an art director does on a union show. And I realized there was a lot of management. I was like, I don't really know if I am. I wanted to do film because I wanted to do visual stuff.
Yeah.
Do I really want to manage people? Do I really want to be the
Right.
like liaison for like all the different
You want
things?
to do it. You don't want to talk about it and see other people do it. You want to
Yeah.
do it.
And it's not like, and then like people would be like, then why didn't you direct? And I'm like, I don't know what stories I want to tell. And I think it's more fun to throw ideas at people and see what sticks.
Yeah.
So concept
Yeah.
art seemed natural, but I sucked at it because I started seriously drawing at 2020. So it's been 3 years since I started seriously committing to it, as in like I drew every other day. I casually started it around like 2018. Yeah. And I got really lucky, I guess. So yes.
So talk to me about like what the concept artist does is as far as you don't just read a script and start drawing things. You usually it's coming from the conversations with the director and the production
Yes.
designer.
You I think in big films, like maybe like competent, like super top secret films like Avengers, like Infinity War or something like that. They probably didn't give people scripts. They probably gave
Right.
somebody prompts.
Yeah.
Sometimes it comes as a prompt. Okay, so I want you to draw this situation, and
It's
you
like Iron Man is fighting a bunch of aliens. Like
yes, exactly. And
that's the
then you
prompt.
draw it.
Yeah.
I think I've never worked on a union show before because that's like another complicated beast. I can go into how somebody gets into it, but it's really difficult. So I've never worked as a concept artist for films, but I believe the directors only give you a few references because they have too many jobs, right?
Right.
They can't spend like hours on a computer trying to give me all the references.
Right.
So
Also, the reason they're hiring you is they kind of want you to inspire some ideas, right?
yes, and a lot of the directors are sadly not very visual. Tim Burton and Guillermo del Toro are like weirdos that happen to be visual. A lot of the directors are not visual, and that's okay because like stories don't need to be visual. And I think it's fine. I don't think it's like a particular drawback, but they do sometimes need like actual pictures to see things, and that's where the concept artist comes in.
Right. And so, where do you draw your inspiration from?
Oh, I get that a lot. And I still haven't.
Or just talk us through the process. So, like, if someone gives you a prompt, what's the first thing you do? Do you start like trying to find images that are related to it? Go look at.
Usually, it comes with some amount of references. You never start from complete ground zero because it's not your idea that you're
Right.
drawing. The art that you draw is not your own. You don't claim, at least for theme parks, it's like all of my drawings are property of them, not me.
Yeah.
I don't think, I think like, I think some property like rights lie with the concept artists themselves in film, but it's the director's ideas, and they generally have an idea of what something wants to look like, so they give you that reference, and from then on you try to gather images and like references, and references are 90% of the time images and videos, but sometimes you kind of have to be the screenwriter in a way and think about, oh, okay, So, if I'm drawing a room, why would she place the desk near the window, right? Or why does she have a lamp on a desk? Why does she have a drawer? Is it because she has like a bunch of letters or like a manuscript that she's working on? Is it on the desk or like is it hiding underneath something because they don't want because the main character doesn't want other people to see that she's working on the manuscript, something like that, right?
Yeah.
So it's engaging in basic level of storytelling that I don't remember all the screenwriting books that I read like when I was younger, but but I think I think people, aspiring writers, know that generally speaking, you need to think about where the character comes from before they need to start somewhere. Not that you write an origin story, but you need, even if you start in the middle, they existed somewhere in the past. So you think about that. And then you like start, I don't write them down. I guess some people do. And then you gather images based on that.
Yeah.
And I work up references. There are some amazing people who can drop an imagination. I'm not one of them. So
Yeah, I hear you. So your screenwriting background, all the books you read, even though you didn't, do it, it's in you and you're using it in your medium.
I guess so. And I think like I think that's the most valuable thing that I got out of my undergrad film education is that um there is a reason something sound like even in sound design, for instance, like the sounds are layered the way they are. And there are reasons where something is punched in, something is given more prominence over the other. And that all stems from storytelling. And in film, we call that screenwriting. So yeah.
Nice. So what's something else you learned in film school that helped you in your what you do now right now?
It's not something I learned, but I think I redefined a lot of my tastes in film. Um, I used to watch like a lot of like commercial, like famous films like Tarantino. I guess that's where I learned I like movies that would be released through Criterion or something like that. So there's like
Criterion's the best. Yeah, I
it
agree.
is.
Yeah.
So there's that. I discovered Celine and Julie Go Boating. It's like this weird French. It's not even French New Wave film, but it's a French New Wave film. It's it's basically a magical story shot in a very realistic manner,
Hmm.
like without like that much, like in a very French New Wave manner.
Right.
So I also realized that's one of my top favorite films of all time. So I learned about that film, and what I learned about that is that you need to ground stories to a certain level. And I don't know how people approach that, but um not to like criticize. I think that's why Poor Things is not as good as a film because it's heightened story with like heightened setting. It doesn't really have anything to ground the story. Like I feel like it would have been much more of an effective story if the ridiculous story was happening in a very realistic setting or vice versa.
Right.
So
Yeah.
like
Interesting.
I think like certain philosophies like that about like what film should be or what good storytelling should be was what I learned in my undergrad.
Yeah. And so what was the moment or the person or like what was that now that you look back on your career, at least to
Mhm.
where you are now? What was the thing that got you to where you are or got you that first job or was it that professor that you met who became an Imagineering
He
person?
was.
He already
I
was. Yeah.
actually think I actually think networking is really important, and I don't think I can stress that enough because ever since I got out of production design grad school last year, none of my jobs I interviewed for, somebody just emails me out of nowhere, or somebody just messages me out of nowhere and be like, hello, somebody will reach out to you. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
I
Yeah. Yeah. The
do.
jobs that you see posted and open, like those, no one ever gets those. I don't know who gets those jobs, but
I don't think people ever
everyone
get
I
jobs
know,
like
it gets
that.
jobs. Yeah. Through relationships.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and when I say networking, I also think there is I also think there is value in trying to be authentic in the sense that you try to get to know the person because they like we're not like robots. We're all people. We know what it sounds like when somebody just copied and pasted something in. When you try to really get to know the person and like touch base with them, um they'll remember you in certain ways,
Yeah.
and they will be impressed with the way that you grew. I think that's what happened with the guy at Imagineering because I met him in 2016. So it's been like a while now. It's 2024 now. It's closer to 10 years than it is than 5 years.
Yeah.
So and he's seen me evolve in terms of like painting and drawing. And I think that's when and I think somewhere along the line, he pushed my portfolio to the creative executive at Disney,
Mhm.
which is what got me hired. So I feel like it's also like really important. And I still like cold email people in the film industry all the time, like in the art department, because that's my thing.
Yeah.
I just tell him, hi, I am I'm an aspiring illustrator, which is what you call a concept artist in the film industry.
Yeah.
An aspiring illustrator. I want some of your advice on how you as an art director worked with an illustrator. Or like, I want some of your stories about how you worked on La La Land, for instance. I've never met them, but because they're so famous, like the Wascos are so famous, I don't think I'll ever meet them. But
Oh, right. There are a couple, right? Sandy
yeah, there are a
Wasco.
couple.
Yeah.
They're very famous. I don't think
Yeah.
I'll meet them unless I just organically meet them or get lucky. But you basically do that, right? You just say, oh, I was really inspired by this sequence of this. And I think one of the things that I told a supervising art director called Brad Ricker, who worked on Don't Look Up, it's not like the most amazing film ever, but it is very interesting in that the last scene is kind of intimate compared to like the ridiculous like scale of the
One where
rest
they're
of
sitting
the film.
around the dinner table.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
scene. And I thought that was like really interesting. And he just told me about everything, how he did something like that. And that when they tell their story, they get invested in you, even though they're like talking about themselves.
Yeah.
So I think like
So that,
I really think networking got me to where I am this fast.
yeah. So that approach works.
I think
That
it does. I
saying who you
know.
are and you want to hear some stories or you want to know about the process.
Yeah, no,
Like
it definitely works.
people
I know
take the
some
time and they reach out and they meet with you, and
Yeah, not everybody does. Some
yeah,
people are genuinely busy. They don't have time. Because we all know, like when we work in film, we work 12 hours a day,
yeah,
plus the 2 hours that you go back and forth. So it's 14 hours a day realistically, right? And then when you sometimes you work overtime, you really don't
yeah.
have it outside of film. Barring some of those exceptions, a lot of the people in the industry are nice. So you try to get to know them. I think it just happened faster in the theme park industry for me, but generally speaking, I try to reach out to a lot of people. I make it a point to do that. In the art department in the film industry, simply because I know it has worked for me in theme parks in the past. Like if you talk to them, let them open up about themselves or their project, they remember you because they're like really thankful that they really paid attention to whatever the hell you did. So I think that's the most valuable lesson I learned, and it's something that a lot of people don't do enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you gotten to the point where people have reached out to you in that manner?
No, not yet. I just got out of grad school last June. It's only
Ah,
been I I only graduated from UCLA like last year.
gotcha.
It's not, I don't think I'm at that place yet, but when when somebody does do that one day, I do resolve to try to make the time because I know that these really busy people have made time for me when I
Yeah.
was clueless.
Yeah. Wait, so
Like
you
there
went
are,
to,
yeah,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
yes,
Oh, just the fact that you went to grad school, production design grad school.
yeah.
What happened to AFI on that?
Oh, UCLA gave me so much more money.
Well,
My first choice was AFI.
yeah,
Um, but I think there was value in going to UCLA because a 3 year long program was generally it gave me a lot more time to learn the craft.
yeah,
And I think like coming from theater backgrounds really do help because like essentially it is also it doubles as a theater program as well.
hmm,
I think I really don't think there is a right or wrong answer to how do you become a filmmaker. I see a lot of arguments online about how you shouldn't go to film school because it costs an exorbitant amount of money, which I do agree, it does cost a lot of money.
yep,
But there are people that went to film school that crafted their philosophy of storytelling the way they did, because like me, because they went to film school, versus sometimes coming from other disciplines help. Because the best set designers or draftsmen who are really good are all like from architecture backgrounds or like theater, like mostly architecture. So I think learning about something else that is not film also helps you make also helps you become a good filmmaker. Yeah, but I think you just have to be really dedicated to what you want to do, what you want to hone, whatever, wherever the hell you are.
yeah. For you and for what you were studying, film school was right. In fact, it was so right you did it twice.
Yeah. Um, I there was a hot second. I don't regret USC at all. I think it really played into how I see stories in general, but I there was a quick moment that I regretted coming to USC because as you may or may not know, USC doesn't really have a production design program. It is non-existent.
Right.
So I was like, am I just doing the wrong thing? Am I wasting my time? But I don't think you really are, really. And I think once you get into that mindset of, oh, am I wasting my time? You fail. So I think you just have to do everything to avoid getting into that mindset. And people can do that. They do have the willpower. It's just easy to fall privy to it.
Right. Right. The other good thing about film schools, people say sometimes, and maybe it takes a while to realize it, are the people that you meet, the other your colleagues, in class with you, right? And
Mhm.
those sometimes lead to relationships and professional relationships. Have you worked with anyone from SC, or I know you just graduated UCLA? Um,
Not really because when I graduated from USC in 2018 and went back to Korea in 2020, it was COVID. And when I came into grad school in 2020, and graduated last year, I somehow just got ushered into theme park. So not yet,
Right.
but I think there is like I think there is like a 5 year like mark where like people either drop out or they stay in the industry forever. Um,
Yeah.
I feel like everybody that I know in the industry somehow knows each other. So I feel like I will meet them. I think I
Yeah.
will meet them. I just think it's a matter of time.
Yeah. I think that's pretty accurate, the 5 year mark. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, because I've
Wait,
seen.
so
Mhm.
oh, go ahead. You saw people, you see people.
No, because I've seen people who like transitioned out of film a lot, even though they went to SC. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I know. I say that's the hardest part is just like that you have to figure out is just how to stay in it, you know,
yeah,
just stay just, and then hopefully your break will come.
yeah.
So you graduated a year ago. Are you in that like O1 visa, OPT thing?
I am, yes.
So are you going for an O1 visa?
Yeah, I am.
Talk about that process because I know a lot of AFI people that have gone through it and it's painful, it's
It is
expensive, it's
very painful.
mysterious.
I think it's a little easier for me because I have worked with two really big companies that everybody knows. So
Yeah.
people are more willing to, people approach me for like, how did you do it type of press. But generally you need to be extraordinary, but you actually don't need to be that extraordinary.
Wait,
Um,
so just to dumb it down for anyone that's watching, because I think it's a really important thing to talk about for anyone international thinking about film school in the United States, right?
yeah.
After you graduate, after a year, right, you can apply for an O1 visa, which means you are an artist of extraordinary talent or means or something.
Yeah. But I think a year starting during your OPT is too late.
Oh,
You have to start like
when you're a student.
soon as you as soon as you get there. I feel like
Wow.
when you realize it during school year, it's a little too late because the extraordinary ability mostly hinges on like two major things. Oh, there's six categories, but two major things is one is press. Well, three major things. One is press, one is like, like payment, I guess, or no, recommendation letters, and then one is like your like involvement in critical success. And critical success in film like for often independent filmmakers mean that um it is like having a film or a credit that went to a lot of film festivals, whether it be big or small. Film festival runs take years. I
Yeah.
think you are aware. A year is not enough time for a film to make a festival run.
Right.
You need I shied away from being like production designers for music videos, independent films, short films, and all that because I just somehow fell into illustration really quickly. But usually you have to have like 5 to 6 credits that comparatively made success, like some degree of success in any film festival. And that takes years.
Yeah.
So I think the latest you can start is a year before you graduate, I think.
So that you did that. You started when you were a student.
I started like my second year, so yes, I did a lot of like UCLA films, some USC films, but a lot of them never got like into festivals either. So that's also another thing. Like the downside about UCLA's film production program is that some of the film students don't submit their work to festivals, probably because it costs a lot of money, I understand.
It does, yeah.
Um, but when that happens, you might not just get credit for the credit that you need.
Yeah.
Right? So I think the earlier you start, the better. You just have to be really aware on how you do it. And then you just maintain good relationships with people because like they write you recommendation letters. I think the press is the hardest part. Um,
Especially like, when you're like a role that you do, like production designer, like it's
yeah,
not a natural, like people seek out the director for an interview and the
yeah,
producer sometimes,
it's
but
a very, I don't think it's like a completely thankless job, but then like to the public eye it is.
to the public eye. So you have to kind of, you have to make interviews happen. You have to make press happen, right?
You do.
You have to kind of manufacture it. Yeah. Yeah. I know the process. It's tough.
I think that's when then again I think that's when like the earlier thing I talked about like reaching out to people really helps because I believe there is a sweet spot where you appeal to people so that they give you a chance to tell them your story.
Yeah.
You just have to be really mindful of what people want to hear, I think.
Yeah. Well said. Well said. Okay. So we're talking about the past. We'll end with the future. And I'm
Mhm.
sure this is very relevant in your world, but
Mhm.
talk about AI and how that's going to affect like concept art, right? And really impact the world that you're in.
I don't think it's going to impact the world I'm in. I know, yes. On a lower level, like production, I think AI will replace some opportunities, but I don't think that means like a decimation of opportunities. I've talked about this with many art directors. A lot of us believe that illustrators have the one thing that AI cannot have that human illustrators do is consistency as in and like continuity. Consistency and continuity meaning that when AI generates images, it just like generates image out of like a gigantic vast database. So it's just like kind of random. But then like in a field where storytelling really matters, storytelling is I know there's non-linear and not linear storytelling, but like storytelling is generally linear. Like it just is a matter of like arranging things. It is generally, I would argue that it's generally linear. In such cases, it is important to maintain some continuity, and illustrators can bring that in. It
Right.
is oftentimes the little details that matter when you do concept art, because when I did the Disney image, I had to focus on the statues and indicate that they were there because they are there in the haunted mansion ride, even though they're not part of the big. It's not the main thing of the queue. The main thing of the queue is the tree in the middle, but still, right? But those are the kind of things that AI cannot just replicate. So think I don't think like I don't think people are completely safe from AI taking away like opportunities. Like I feel like for instance for Sora, like stock photographers and videographers are probably at risk, but then like if it comes down to storytelling, good storytellers know that there needs to be some through line. And human artists do see through that. So I think we should be fine. Maybe in another 50 years we might not be fine, but I think within the next decade, I don't think anything major is going to happen.
I want to believe you. I like the optimism. I'm going to believe
Yeah.
you. I like it. Where do you go for inspiration? Like how do you feed your well for artistic inspiration? That's not
I
movies.
I read,
Yeah.
I look at a lot of paintings. I
You go to museums?
I do, yes.
Do you
I
just sketch? Like, are you one of those artists that can't turn it off? And if you're sitting in a cafe, you just start sketching people or things?
I do, yeah. My bag always has like a small sketchbook, so yes, I do.
I love it.
Or like I'm on my phone, like watching like things. I'm not like videos, but like photos. I'm not really that type of person that gets inspiration from videos unless it's a film. But yeah.
Is it something that you have to do to keep up? It's like a muscle you have to flex.
No, I do think it's important to read and watch movies, but no. I think the only thing that you need to cultivate as an art department personnel is observational skills because we're responsible for creating every little thing that people may not really even care about. Most people don't care about. So I think observational skills are really important. And then like observational skills naturally lend into like drawing and painting. But
Yeah.
I think it matters for I think it matters for all like filmmakers, but yeah.
But very important for production design. I mean, the best production designers are thinking like that, right? They observe, but you're observing character, and then you're like, how do I express that through their
Yes.
environment, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. What was your favorite production design film of last year? Well, I know it wasn't Poor Things.
I think it was Saltburn.
Beautiful. Yeah.
I do also think Poor Things was like Poor Things pushed the boundaries of design. I just think it wasn't serving the story in the best manner possible.
Yeah. There wasn't a consistent like visual design. I felt like kind of like let's just throw everything out there and
Yeah, like I think one of the criticisms that it gets is that it feels like it was churned out by Midjourney, and I'm like,
yeah.
that's such a
There
shame.
you go. The Poor Things, it shows us the dangers of AI, right?
And I'm like, that's such a shame because like behind every film there was a production designer like trying to like scrape their heads out trying to figure out a design that's consistent. And like
Yeah.
when people say that, that's just like sad.
Right. It just did, yeah, you like you said before, it didn't feel like grounded in any kind of reality,
I think that's
which
what it was.
yeah,
Like it could have been like William Defoe's character. It could have been like Emma Stone, like
yeah.
whichever, right? But it wasn't doing that. I think that's why it was like kind of met for me. But the general consensus for people who do production design is that Poor Things is an amazing film. So I'm
Yeah. I
yeah,
always feel like though it's always those movies, the ones that are either like, period pieces or way over the top like that or sci-fi because they're heavily like they're world building, right?
yeah,
But the ones that get, kind of cast aside are the like the present day set, like naturalistic movies. Like The Holdovers is I thought was great. And it's a beautiful, like very simple set in the 70s in a boarding school, on the East Coast. And I bet, I mean, I I loved the production design of it because
mhm.
it felt right. It created that world that you wanted to live in, but you'll never, I don't know if it got nominated or not, but no one's ever going to talk about the production design of that movie because it's not over the top or outlandish. Even Saltburn is kind of like present day in a bit, kind of,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
But it's over the top because that's the tone of the movie. It's over the top.
Yeah, I mean, like I am a very form over function type of person when it comes to work. I
Yeah.
know I did talk about storytelling a lot, and I seem like I'm the opposite. I am a form over function person. Like I do, like all of the like a lot of the films I like are just pretty for the sake of it. I'm guilty of that too, but
It's
I do
okay. We all like beauty. You said you like to look at pretty things, right?
yeah. But then like I think when what stands the test of time usually is something that is grounded. I don't know what that groundedness means for like different people, but it has to be that.
Yeah. Grounded.
Yeah.
That that is a nice way to end this.
Yeah.
Clara, right? I never even said your name. Is it Clara?
Yeah, it's Clara, yes. Clara,
Clara.
Clara, whatever.
Clara.
Yeah.
And we'll put all the all your like ways to find you. We'll tag the hell out of this. Thanks for doing this. I'm gonna follow your career. Anytime you want to come by AFI and check it out and hang out with the production designers, let me know.
Yeah,
If the
of course.
Wascos are ever coming by, I'll let you know.
Yeah, you should.
They have been there before.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, because we have a pretty renowned design program, they get a lot of
Yeah,
cool guests coming in to talk.
I hope so.
So one of my great honors was I got to interview Baz Luhrmann and his wife, Catherine Martin,
Ooh.
or Elvis, and you know, who is his
I
production designer.
loved Elvis. I know it's also an over the top film, but I feel like that was well
But
grounded.
it fit.
Yeah.
And so she is the producer, production designer, and costume designer, Catherine
Oh,
Martin, and
that's
married to Baz Luhrmann, which is like that's probably the biggest job because
yeah.
he's crazy. But she's a genius.
I
Imagine
can
doing
tell.
those three things on one movie.
I can't even be a production designer. So great. So props to that, really. I genuinely mean it. So yeah.
Yes, you can, because you're working on Beetlejuice the prequel. It's
I hope
called Prequel Juice.
I
We'll work on the
hope
title.
so. We'll see.
Clara, thanks. Enjoy the rest of your night. Try to get some sleep. It was a
Yeah, thank
pleasure.
you so much. It was a pleasure talking to you.
All right. Take care. Bye.
Bye.